Thank you, Simona, and everyone at the Dido 2023 conference for having me. My name is Vasily. I lead the customer experience organization at Revolut. And today I will be talking to you about quite an exciting topic in product management, which is building products for maximum impact. That said, I'm quite excited to be joining this conference in Barcelona, although remotely. But I wanted to, again, say a couple things in Spanish, which is something I'm currently personally investing quite a bit of time. And my last 6 months, much of the time, were in Barcelona. So, muchas gracias por tenerme en la conferencia DIDO 2023 en Barcelona. Estoy muy feliz y orgulloso de estar aquí con ustedes. Hoy discutiremos cómo gestionar productos para lograr un impacto máximo. With that, let's kick it off. And in the end, we will have a Q&A session where I will be happy to answer your questions, so please keep them coming. A bit about myself before we get in the details on the topic. I'm currently, as I mentioned, a product leader at Revolut. I lead the organization called Customer Experience. I'll tell you more about it on the next slide. Before Revolut, I've been with the company for 2 years, soon to be 2 years. Before Revolut, I've done a number of things in the Silicon Valley, mostly around cars in the last 10 years in companies such as Waymo, Tesla, Uber. And overall this year, it's getting 20 years that I started again my product career back in 2023. So quite a good time to make some summary and to start again generalizing the experiences I've learned. With that, let me tell you a little bit about my role at Revolut. As I mentioned, again, I lead the organization titled Customer Experience globally. You may know Revolut as a super app for financial services for retail customers. In fact, we also have business branch. So we're offering all kinds of products around money to consumers as well as to businesses. And the way we define, again, customer experience organization is through exact customer experiences that it manages. And those are the two primary things for me. First is customer help. Customer help organization within my organization helps customers, again, based on the name it's called, in any case when they have a question or a problem with any of our multiple services. So that's the customer help organization. And then we have a part which is a little bit more mysterious and hard to define, which again, I internally refer as mission critical. And that's an organization that improves customer experience in cases when people's money are at risk or some bad things happen to them. And those cases could include things such as fraud, scam, chargeback, and many, many other things. Again, that's just a subset of your overall customer experience with us. But it's a very important set because some of the reasons people have challenges with their banks and make decisions to, for example, move from one organization to another is that they are not feeling as protected as they should be in cases when something negative happens to them, right? So our mission is to help you in cases when things are fine in general, you just want to learn, or maybe something is not going well, you just don't know how to operate the app, but also in a high stakes set of situations where your money has been stolen, is about to be stolen, someone is reaching out to you with a scam offer. So we are having your back, and my goal is to have your back. That said, again, I'm giving a little bit more details on what those experiences actually look like. On the right, I'm actually proud to show you the warnings that we give people when they transfer funds to a potential scammer, where we detect the scam and we tell you that, hey, consider this transfer carefully. Maybe you should not do it today. Maybe you should think about it twice. Quite proud about that experience. Not true for all financial organizations. Many of them treat your experience the same way, whether it's a fraudulent transaction or not. Proud to say that at Revolut, we're distinguishing between the two and we're scoring and we're taking care of you, especially when we see the high risk of a transaction potentially being a scam. Okay, that said, to the topic of our presentation today, it's how you build for maximum impact. Again, a little bit in Spanish, cómo gestionar productos para lograr un impacto máximo. Let's start with impact. What do we mean by that? It's quite a mysterious term these days. It's becoming more and more high fashion. I hear it from everywhere. But it's not enough of precision that I hear when this term is being used, because many things could be called impact. What I'm doing here, I'm using Dilbert cartoon to give you at least two different ways to define impact. One is emotional and one is an economic. In both cases, we're talking about impact, right? Economic impact can be measured in dollars, in financial well-being terms. Emotional impact can be measured in terms of how confident we feel, how happy or frustrated we feel. And those are just the two ways. There are definitely ways to measure and define impact beyond those two. With that, I'll tell you what I define as impact and my approach to it. So first, today I'm going to give you 3 approaches to building for impact, which first of them includes understand your customers and understand the problem that your customers have so that you can build the best solution. Second is experiment, run multiple different initiatives on a given area and make sure that your success compounds, right, from success in multiple of those initiatives. And then finally, third one is align, which I also frame as put your money where your mouth is. Make sure that your organization structure and design is reflective of the customer experiences that you are about to be building, and that the marketing message that you're sending to customers, what matters to you. So basically, to put things more precisely, we are talking about impact on customer experience. We want to build the best possible products for the customers. At the same time, doing the best thing for the company as well. So we have to take 2 perspectives in mind. And with those 2 perspectives, we should be trying hard to understand the product and customer needs that need to be built. We should be trying to experiment as much as we possibly can to build success in a repeatable way multiple times to get the impact of compounding. Finally, we want to build an organization that aligns well with our marketing message and with our promise to customers that we're making. So that said, let's go into understand customer problem area. And here I will give you an example from Uber, which was quite a number of years before today. But even though that example is not very new, I think still this example is quite a great one to show the difference between customer experience and the company priorities. Those 2 things sometimes could be aligned, but an example we're going to consider today, they're not necessarily aligned. So the problem we have here is Uber driver, and in Spain, I believe there is no Uber, right? But everyone knows what ride sharing is. I'm not going to explain what Uber is. We're talking about ride sharing company and taxi world. The problem that taxi driver and Uber driver has at any moment in time is, should I stay online to keep making money, or should I go offline, stop making money, but enjoy my life, right? So that's the problem people have at any point in time. That's the most important question you have at any point in time. Should I keep working or should I not keep working? If you ask the company, like Uber, or in this case could be some other taxi company, what's their approach, what's their perspective on this question? They will in most cases tell you that, yes, I want the driver to be online. I want them to be working because when they're working, we're making our fees, we're making commissions, and we're serving customers. When they're not working, we're not serving our customers. So it's black and white. Maybe only cases when the company wants you to stop working is when they see that you're not delivering great experience, or maybe when they see that you're tired or potentially create safety risk for the customers or for the general public. If we ask the driver, the person behind the wheel, what's the right decision for them? Their answer is not going to be as simple, right? Like they have clear goals in many cases. Sometimes they just want to work for an hour. They just want to escape home and socialize with people, right? Sometimes they just want to drive to like for fun, right? To not lose their driving skill, etc. They've got multiple reasons to do that. And generally the answer to stay online or not offline is going to be different from if we ask the company. So as product people at Uber, which again, that was one of the problems I worked on and focused, we decided to approach this problem with a product that asked you a question at the time when you already tell us that you would like to disconnect and go home, we would like to ask you once again, are you really sure that you would like to disconnect and go home? So that's as simple as it gets. Again, imagine you're a driver. Imagine you say, I would like to go offline. I want to stop working for today. And in original state and the default state, we would simply take you offline and call it a day for you. In the new state with this product, we would ask you a clarifying question. Did I get it right that you would like to go offline and stop working today? And then we did a number of different fancy things. For example, you have been driving for 2 hours and 15 minutes, get to 3 hours. You've just driven 5 kilometers, get to 10. You've just given 7 rides. How about you get to 10? So we created a sense of achievement around customers to stay online longer. Again, solving for the selfish perspective of the company to keep you online longer. And basically, I don't have it on the slide, but basically I'm going to tell you about the results of this approach. So first, short term, it was a huge success. Short term, we have seen an improvement of double-digit percent for each driver who was in this experiment, that they started driving more. It was not a marginal improvement of 1%, 0.5%, or like, again, small. It was quite a substantial improvement. So we got very excited and invested a lot of additional effort into this feature. The problem was that we learned only later is that longer term, people felt like it was not in their best interest, right? They felt like this experience was actually making it more difficult for them to do their jobs, right? It made them feel guilty when they're being asked 2 times, right? Should I stop driving or not? And overall, it made a bad experience for them, which they did not communicate to us through driving more, but instead they just decided to come less often, right? Or come work for competitive companies, which in ride-hailing there is quite a number of. Bottom line is the lesson in this case is understand what's good for you as a company is not guaranteed to be good for your customer, in this case for an Uber driver. In fact, even if you observe that it's good, it seems to be good, right? It seems to be people are driving more. It seems to be that things are working well. There might be a problem underneath that you're not aware of. So always go talk to your customers, always understand the customer experience. And if you have warning signs in terms of customer experience going worse, even if data shows you that things are generally fine, consider making a change. That's my approach to understand, and one story about the understand. With that, let's go and talk about the experiment part. First of all, we want to build a large company and a successful company, right? Often those companies are called rocket ships. And to build this rocket ship, you generally want to move fast because you're not the only one. There is many other people building companies and would like to outrun you and would like to move faster than you are. What does it mean to move fast? And I want to explain this with a physics analogy. I hope it's not too confusing for you, but there are different ways to move fast and to deliver energy, because moving fast generally comes with a high energy, right? You need to deliver high energy. You need to use high energy for what I call it ship takeoff. Like this spaceship, we just recently had Starship takeoff happening earlier last week. So it's probably a good analogy. But the second way for you to move fast and to use your energy is to just what's called hit the steam room, right? In the steam room, there is lots of molecules. They're all moving fast. They're moving very fast. But the problem is we're not moving overall in the steam room because all of those molecules are moving in a different direction and they're colliding with each other, and overall we stand still. So I think this alternative, this analogy is a good one for you to understand, because when you're moving fast and when you're running fast, like ask yourself, am I in the first state where I'm running in one direction, I'm on my path to take off the Earth and fly to Moon or to the Mars, so that we can have visible impact and we can have visible success? Or I'm wasting my energy and it's turning into heat. So I'm running fast and I'm sweating but there is no liftoff. We're still on the Earth. We're not approaching Moon. We're not approaching Mars. We're just doing the busy work, and we're looking busy, but we're really not making that much impact. So that's the analogy I have in mind. And I always want to make sure that we're not in the steam room, that we're in a spaceship, and then it takes us maybe a little bit longer to configure the spaceship and to get everything set for the flight. But at least in that case, we're going for a takeoff. We're going for some material impact. We're not just burning energy in the steam room to heat it up with no consequence. And then the last point in this regard is power of compounding, because one thing that unites unicorns, hugely successful companies, in addition to them moving fast, is that they genuinely get lots of things right. They often get lots of things wrong, but one thing which distinguishes them from many other competitors is that they have to get lots of things right to continue growing. If you do not get those things right, at some point your growth slows down, your customers get less happy, and eventually they stop using your product as much. Here I'm doing some math, a little bit of really basic math, more like arithmetics, in addition to the physics on the previous slide. Compounding is a term well known in the financial field, right? The power of compounding basically means in financial world that if you slowly increase your money every year, you don't lose it, but you slowly increase it by, for example, 5% every single year or by 10% every single year. Ultimately, the speed of your growth is going to be represented by a curve similar to the one I put on the slide, which has two distinct parts, right? One is it feels gradual, right? If we have 100 euros, $100, and we get 5% on it, we get 5 more euros. So it feels like we're not growing very fast. It's a gradual, slow increase. But in this nature of compounding an exponential curve, at some point it starts feeling what I say here, feeling sudden, which it starts growing very, very fast. And the point is that the longer you stick to this approach, the longer you keep compounding your success, the steeper your success gets as years pass by. And then in terms of numbers, in terms of mathematics, what I do here is I say, for example, if you increase by 10% twice, 10% and 10% again, you're going to end up not with 20%, you're going to end up with 21%. So there is an extra 1 percentage point that you made with this increase. And then if you do this, for example, how many times? 100 times. That's on the very bottom of the slide. If you run what they call 100 experiments, and you get 5% improvement in each, or 5% lift in each, you would be getting from 1x to 131x. So you will be multiplying your present state, you're multiplying your original state by a factor of 131, or basically creating a value of 13,000%, right? So think about it, 5%, 100 times, seems like 500%, but no, it's actually 13,000%. And as time goes by and as you keep increasing number of years, this mathematics gets even more astonishing. Bottom line for you is, again, this basic stuff. I'm not going to lecture you on this topic, but bottom line is to grow fast and to get big, you need to get lots of things right. To get lots of things right, you genuinely want to move fast within the same time to run as many experiments as possible. But the goal is for you to have positive improvement and to have positive repetitive improvement consistently over the course of a long time. Then you will be sure to win. Finally, last point on the value of failed experiments. If you take at face value what I told you on the previous slide, you will probably conclude that experiment where we get negative return is a bad outcome, right? Or in financial analogy, if you lost money in the market, that's never good for you, right? It's always good to keep growing, even slowly, but it's never good for you to lose money. Overall, that's true, right? That's generally true. But there is one big caveat to this, which I have to represent here to give you a bigger understanding of this problem, is that sometimes failed experiments are also actually good and they're valuable. Let me give you the example. In the world of finance, there is a combination, there is a trade-off between what's called risk and return. Basically, to be earning more, you have to be taking bolder paths, you have to be taking more risk, right? So if you take a safe approach and put your money in a bank account, it will keep growing very slowly, but the bank ensures you will be guaranteed to keep your money growing at a slow pace. If you want to earn money much faster, increase your wealth much faster, you might decide to purchase a real estate or to go to the stock market or to purchase crypto, like do some high risk investments. Those high risk investments will generally come with a higher expected return, but it means on some of the years you might be losing money. And all of us, again, know that by example of a crypto market, by example of maybe real estate market. In any market that you can look into, you see periods of explosive growth, but sometimes there are periods of a slowdown, of slower growth, or in many cases even a fall. And basically the point I would like to make about the value of failed experiments is, if you look at the portfolio of product initiatives that you took over the course of a long time, a quarter or a year, and if you assign a success value to each of those experiments, like a lift, by how much has it improved customer experience or a given metric, you will get a sequence of numbers, right? It could be 1%, and then 1%, and then 5%, and then minus 1%, and minus 10%. So there will be a sequence of those numbers. The point about the value of failed experiments is, if you always have positive numbers, but they're always low, that generally means you're taking safe approach to your product strategy and your product experimentation, which is, it's not bad in a sense that you're repeatably producing positive returns. And if you keep doing it for a very, very long period of time, it's going to take you to a good place. That's fine. But if you have competitors, if you're in a very competitive space, for example, we're in financial services space, there are thousands of organizations. In this case, it's not enough for you to move slowly, because whoever moves faster than you are in the same direction is likely to outcompete you and win in the market. And that generally gets represented by a sequence of experiment results, more like plus 10%, but then minus 5%, and then plus 10%, and then minus 15%. So what's called variance of this sequence of numbers is going to be much higher. And if I see the sequence of experiments that some product person runs, which has high variance, at the same time, high expected number, high average, I will generally prefer this type of approach, especially if I'm in a competitive place, especially if I needed to outcompete many, many companies. So that's the approach on failed experiments. Overall, compounding is your friend. Run lots of successful things over a long period of time that takes you to a great place. At the same time, make sure that you understand the trade-off between risk and reward. So in some cases, having negative experiments in your portfolio is an evidence that you are taking risk. If you have no unsuccessful experiments, it means you're not taking enough risk, which means the competitors who does will likely move faster and will likely outcompete you if they do otherwise good decisions. Finally, going back to our product decision on making drivers drive longer, was it really a success or failure? I believe I already covered this, saying that it was a success. It seemed like it was a success on the surface. All the driving metrics went up, etc. But ultimately, we called it a failure. And we discontinued that product, and we focused on making driver experience as smooth and as frictionless as possible, whether they want to go online or whether they want to go offline. And in that case, that resulted in building much higher trust and much nicer customer experience for drivers. Bottom line is, do not blindly trust your numbers. They hide a lot of customer experience implications that you need to reveal through qualitative metrics. And those qualitative metrics should be available to you if you speak to your customers, or if you go and talk to your customer service organization, which does customer communications on your behalf. Finally, the last point for today, we did discuss the understand. We did discuss the experiment. Now I want to talk about the topic of aligning your product organization to customer needs and to the marketing that you send to the customers, which means you talk about what matters to you. You talk about what you do for the customers. What I talk about in this part of the presentation is, when I look at your organization chart, when I look at your team structure, it needs to be obvious to me that you're actually putting your money where your mouth is, right? That you're actually delivering on those promises that you make to customers in your marketing statements, and in your value proposition. I'll take a look at one example here together with you. And back in time when, again, we were working on those Uber problems, growth was a high fashion thing, and Uber was the fastest growing company of all time at that point. So many companies started creating growth teams. And Uber was one of them. I was actually one joining growth team at that time. In today's realities, we can see companies creating AI teams, right? Machine learning teams, I don't know, ChatGPT, large language models. Like, there is plenty of big data. There is plenty of viral things out there. And in many cases, those viral things result in a special team being created for it. So the question is, should we do that or not? In an example here, I'm showing you an example where there is a CEO, and there is a growth organization, and then there is what I call a core product organization that builds some features which are not necessarily going after faster growth. And then within each of those organizations, by example of Uber, we would have supply or drivers, and we would have demand or riders, and then the same in the core product. So that's, at some point, this was actually real structure of Uber product organization. If you replace growth with AI, you might see, again, analogy in your company as well. So you might see an AI team, you might see a machine learning team, big data team. Those teams can have different names. Alternative to this is organization chart, which is better aligned with your customer needs. And to be more explicit, this is how Uber organization was redesigned with time, away from focus on growth and core experience, but into focusing on your customers, who could be drivers and who could be riders. And then within the driver organization, we would have driver needs. And then within rider organization, we would have rider needs. The difference between the two is, if you go to the previous slide, and if you ask me to look at this chart, and if you ask me to comment on what is this company all about, like what does it value and what is it serving, it's pretty clear. It's self-serving. It's trying to grow faster. But there is nothing on this chart that tells me that this company is trying to optimize customer experience, right? Like, nothing. There is not a single team that talks about customer problems and makes it clear that customers are valued. On this slide, if I take a look at the chart, it's obvious to me that at the level of organizational structure, we have a special team that focuses on, again, drivers and riders. There is a team that focuses on driver need number one, driver need number two. If I take this to my Revolut example, I gave you an example about customer help and about problems with potentially your money that is at risk of being stolen, etc. So I designed my teams explicitly around those customer needs, and each team needs to be obviously be able to explain which customer need is it helping to solve and which customer problems is it solving. So that's, if I may propose just one takeaway from this presentation, is if you take a look at your own organization, plot a chart, and look at it honestly. Does it make it clear what you stand for, right? Does it make it clear what you're solving for your consumers? If not, chances are you're not designing your organization correctly. Chances are you're not putting money where your mouth is, because the mouth or marketing message is always talking about the value to the customer. That means your organization needs to be also talking about the customer value. That's it. So those are my three things on building for maximum impact that I wanted to communicate to you. How you build for maximum impact: please understand your customers, understand the target experience you would like to build, and what problems exist today that you need to solve. Please go ahead and experiment. Make sure that you run multiple successful experiments over the course of long course of time. That will be making sure that you succeed over long term and win even in the most competitive market. While doing that, please remember about the balance between risk and reward. If you can afford, please try to improve and increase the risk in those experiments that you take to get higher average reward. Finally, align your organization to your customer needs. Design your company in a way and design your product organization in a way when someone takes a look at it, and when you take a look at it, it's always obvious to you which problems you're solving for the customer and how you're making a customer experience better. That's it. Muchas gracias para invitarme. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'm welcoming your questions.